Hello everybody, it's George again with the Penguin TV. This week we are going to be looking at Turbo Tezz. This deck just won the Bazaar of Moxen over in Europe. It took first and second place actually. There were two different versions, one ran Dark Confidants and one did not. But we've got a classic version here, which admittedly is not quite as good as the vintage version. We're missing, you know, Black Lotus and 5 Moxes and Time Walk and Ancestral Recall. And these cards are pretty important. But what we do have here is it's a pretty good deck. It's supposed to do very well against workshops and have a fighting chance against pretty much everything else. It's pretty quick, and I have been consistently getting turn 3 wins with Vault Key. And then there's also a couple of different little monkey wrenches to throw in the deck. So let's take a quick look at the mana base. We've got 17 lands, 8 fetches, 4 basic islands, 2 tropicals, and 3 undergrounds. The 4 basic islands, the green and the black splash are really minimalistic. And having 4 basic islands in such a heavy wasteland environment is pretty important for the deck to function properly. And that's, you know, disregarding things like Blood Moon and Null Rod, which are seeing absolutely no play, which would also hurt this deck very much. But we've got 8 fetch lands, and part of this is to just really turn on the Sensi's Divining Top, the Brainstorms, and your Jaces to make every activation or casting of them let you see fresh cards. Because with 8 fetch lands, you're gonna get to do a lot of fetching. Then you've got your hard mana over here. And we've got our Artifact Acceleration. These 7 right here, the 4 Lotus Petals, the Mana Vault, the Soul Ring, and the Mana Crypt, are all pretty ubiquitous with the format. Any deck that's playing blue is pretty much playing these 7 cards. This is almost like our Power 6 here with the 5 Moxes and the Lotus. Obviously, Lotus Petal is not as good as Mox, but it does give you any color mana, which Moxes can't do, and they play phenomenally with Yawgmoth's Will. These guys are restricted in Vintage. If they were not, I would bet that decks would play 4 of them instead of some regular Moxes. It might be heresy to think so. If anyone out there is an actual Vintage player, you can comment and say, you are crazy, I would never play 4 petals over a Mox, but, you know, maybe it would happen with Yawgmoth's Will. We've got 3 Grim Monoliths, which have really started to take off in Vintage. And, I mean, the best play that you can make in Vintage with this deck is probably turn 1 land Mox Grim Monolith. Oh, as an average good play. That's obviously not the best play. The best play would probably involve Black Lotus land Mox Time Vault Voltaic Key. That would probably be the best, but we've got these guys, and then we're trying out 1 Mox Opal. It's better than Lotus Petal, and it's worse than Lotus Petal at the same time. But it never actually really came up in the event. I've already played the event before I did this deck tech. I'll try not to spoil anything for you, but I don't really think that Mox Opal came up in any of the matches. I've got a Beast Within that it was a Second Nature's Claim, and I was a little bit worried about Chalice of the Void on 1, so I just wanted to give Beast Within a whirl and see what happens, and this definitely never came up. I think I drew it twice. I may not have been able to cast it once, and another time it just had no relevant targets. I still like it though, and I'm not sure if this is the deck for it, but I do really feel like this is the best card for Classic and or Vintage out of New Phyrexia. He's just so good. It's too bad that I hate the art though. The art is pretty blah to me. So we've got these 2. These are primarily disruption. We can blow up an Oath of Druids, we can blow up a problematic workshop piece. The Beast Within can blow up anything that happens to get in the way. You can use it on your own lands to block fish creatures. Like I said, my favorite card out of the set for Eternal Magic. We have a trio of Thoughtseize. This could be Duress, but with all of the little weenie creatures running around and Lodestone Golems and Metalworkers, I think Thoughtseize is pretty good. And unlike most other decks, this deck does not really eat up its life very much. It's got these 3 Thoughtseizes, these fetch lands, and the Mana Crypt. But I find myself losing or winning with a much higher life total than I do with, let's say, Oath of Druids or Fast Bond decks or Storm decks. We have the ubiquitous Quadruple Brainstorm. Any deck in Classic and Legacy that plays blue should probably be playing these Brainstorms. We've got 1 Sensi Top, which I think could probably be, I think that I could probably add a 2nd Sensi Top to this deck, and it would be a good time. I'm not sure what I would cut for it, but it would be pretty good. We've got 4 Tutors. We're running everything except for Mystical. Mystical doesn't really do too much. We don't have a whole lot of instants or sorceries, at least not game-winning ones. There's no Yawgmoth's Will. You can obviously Mystical Tutor into a Tinker or a Demonic Tutor to go find whatever you want, but it's not in this list. It might be a mistake. It might be the correct thing, but I didn't run it. We've got our Time Vault and Double Voltaic Key. This is the main win condition in the deck, coupled with our Tezzeret the Seekers. But you win 90% of your games by activating Vault Key. The metagame right now is a touch hostile against Time Vault and Voltaic Key because they happen to be artifacts, and that's a downfall of trying to, as having an artifact as your main win condition in a metagame that is very prevalent with Workshop decks and people trying to beat Workshop decks. They're just going to have random hate lying around to blow up your vault. And with no graveyard recursion in the deck, so to speak, you have to be very careful about when you throw out this Time Vault. It's almost always correct to go and get a Voltaic Key first. That's why there's 2. Also, there's 2 so that you can have the natural luck sack into drawing up your Voltaic Key and not having to tutor for both pieces. We've got a triple Mana Drain and a playset of Force of Will over here to augment our Thoughtseizes and our green Disruption cards. These are mostly to help stop an early Sphere piece or Lodestone Golem, or to help force through one of your Planeswalkers. Speaking of the Planeswalkers, we've got triple Tezzeret, which oftentimes comes down on turn 2. One of the better plays that you can make in the deck is turn 1 land Lotus Petal, or turn 1 land Soul Ring, turn 1 land Mana Vault, turn 1 land Mana Crypt. You just want to get up to 2 mana on your first turn. You play a Grim Monolith. And then on your second turn, either you have to drop a 2nd land, and then you play Tezzeret, searching up Voltaic Key. You untap, and you pretty much win. So Tezzeret is the main focus of the deck, getting him out. That's why there's Grim Monoliths. That's why there's 2 Voltaic Keys. This deck is built to get Tezzeret active. And one of the fortunate things about this build is that once you start getting Vault Key and you're going infinite, you really only need to take about 2 or 3 turns before Tezzeret makes all your board lethal, which is a benefit for when the people force you to play out your win condition under the Vault Key. To supplement the 2 Tezzerets, we've got 2 Jace the Wallet Slayers. He is just as good in Classic as he is in Legacy and Standard. He actually might be better in Classic than in any other format, because it's got the least amount of direct damage and creatures to attack him. He may cost you 6 to 7 mana to get down on the table through some Sphere effects, but against Workshops, once he gets going, he is pretty good. We've got our Tinker Target in Blightsteel. We have this is the best Tinker Target in the game. I have a hard time seeing any other creature ever printed being a better target than Blightsteel Colossus. Maybe if they printed, let's say, like a 2020 with haste, I guess that would be just as good. Or a 1010 Infector with haste, that might be just as good too. But this guy wins in one hit. There's not much more to say. He is a staple in the format. Mer Battlesphere is one of the other 2 robots, maybe 3, that can compete with the Blightsteel. Some people like Inkwell because it can't be targeted, and some people like Sphinx of the Steelwind because it's got protection from Ancient Grudge and Nature's Claim. And now also Beast Within. Mer Battlesphere is in here to help deal with Planeswalkers. That's what he's good at. Because even if they've got a Jace active and you tinker into your Battlesphere, they bounce the Battlesphere, and then your 4/1/1s take out Jace. And you're left with a clock. And you may have an uncastable card in your hand, but the way that this deck is set up, you've got your Grim Monoliths and your Voltaic Keys, so you can hardcast them. And I've hardcast this guy quite a few times, especially with the help of Mana Drain. And the last card in the main deck that a lot of people are going to scratch their heads and be like, really? Seriously? Precursor Golem? He is amazing. Workshops need to spend 3 different creatures to get rid of him. Blue decks aren't really prepared for him in the main deck, or really the sideboard. He can come out on turn 2 with the help of Grim Monolith. He's just a really solid card. I don't think that I would ever tutor for it or tinker for it, but the fact that he's there and that he's an option, I have won a lot of games with Precursor Golem, and I think that he is a pretty amazing card. One card that you may be curious as to why it's not in the deck is Tellurian Academy. I would wonder the same thing. I did not build this deck. I put a couple of slight tweaks onto it. Someone in the community gave it to me. They asked to remain anonymous, and I wasn't really liking the version of this that I had built. So I tested this for about a week, and I thought, you know, why the heck not? I'll give it a try. I really like the Precursor Golem idea. And that's one of the biggest reasons I played this version over any of the other ones that I had. I have 2 other versions. One is a straight-up brew, and one is a straight-up port of the first place Bazaar of Moxen deck. Obviously, there are 8 Power 9 cards in the Bazaar of Moxen list, and I had to use Lotus Petals and Brainstorms to make up for those 8 cards. But this deck is pretty good. On paper, it has a really good matchup versus Workshop decks, and it's got probably about a 60-40 matchup against blue decks. It's got a terrible matchup versus any kind of combo deck. Combo just eats it for breakfast, which is unfortunate, because every now and then you will run into a combo deck. But, I mean, Workshops is keeping combo down. So on paper, this is a great deck for the metagame. Fish, I have never played against Fish yet. I would assume, though, that it might be a little bit rough, because they've just got random answers to your Time Vault. For the sideboard, we have a little bit more hate versus Workshop decks in 2 Sabotages and an Echoing Truth. Again, this is not my build, and the author of the deck decided that he didn't like Hurkyl's Recall. He liked Echoing Truth because it has more utility. You can bounce Bridge from Below tokens. You can bounce Forbidden Orchard tokens. You can bounce Oath Fatties. And in that respect, I do agree. Echoing Truth has a little bit more maneuverability within the format. Spell Pierce also can come in against Workshops. I would probably take out all 3 Thoughtseizes and both Jaces against Workshop for these cards. And then Nature's Claim also comes in. And you take out a couple of more cards. We've got Relics and Leyline of the Voids for Dredge. It's one less card that I like to play, But this deck is also pretty fast. If we are on the play, we can race dredge without any hate at all. So that's one thing the deck has going for it. Trinisphere is for Storm, and I will say this. I played against the Storm deck, and I lost game 1. I sideboarded in Trinisphere, and on turn 2, I lost the game for myself because I totally forgot that I put Trinisphere in my deck, and I used Tezzeret to seek up something that was not a Trinisphere, and he stormed out my face on his turn. Which is unfortunate, because I'm pretty sure I would have won that game if I had just remembered that I had sideboarded in Trinisphere. Two Nature's Claim. They come in against Oath of Druids, and they come in against Workshops. Spell Pierce comes in against pretty much all of the blue decks, and Storm. You need to up your percentages a little bit. And while these 3 cards help against Storm, I still think it's a crapshoot at best, and you're better off just avoiding it. And lastly, I've got Precursor Golem. I was so impressed with the main deck Golem that I talked with the guy who gave me the list, and he agreed that, you know, maybe we should try a second Precursor Golem because the Storm matchup is just not fun. And this speeds up your deck even more so. So that's the deck, and I will see you guys for round 1 when I start playing it. Enjoy!